Greetings and welcome everybody to another episode of Consciousness Rising Zimbabwe and Beyond. I am Tania Norris and today I'm joined by this very beautiful lady here, Carmen Ribeiro. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you, Tania, for inviting me to be here.
And Carmen is going to be this is Phoebe, the cat. Carmen is going to be telling us today about her journey and sharing with us her wisdom and her creative works that open up new pathways into healing and transformation. And that's just a very important thing to mention that I want to say to people is, you know, when we look at the outside world and we see all the chaos and the conflict and the confusion going on, I think it's important to note that it's not just on the outside, that everything is a multi-dimensional, multi-layered effect. So if it's happening on the outside, it's happening on the inside as well. Okay. And I'm sure many of you are feeling that, or many of you know of people who are suffering from some kind of turmoil, be it mental health, looking for new ways to be on the planet, looking for confidence, self-esteem. And so if you do know of anybody, then please do share with them the details of this channel, because we already have many therapists and different types of therapies that are available for us to get that kind of help. And people can find that inner resolution and that inner peace that they're looking for. And today, Carmen is going to share her wisdom with us that is going to help along that journey. And it's very unique and very interesting. So, Carmen, when we chatted, you told me you are an integrative nutritionist. You studied in New York at the Institute. Well, you studied with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in New York.
Exactly.
And you're also a yoga teacher trainer. So you've done many, like 300 hours of yoga training and all of that. We'll talk about that. One of the things you specialize in is hormonal health. But the most important thing is that you had this amazing, profound download last year. And you have put it all together into something that you're calling the Radiance Code. So this is what we want to discuss today. First of all, I want to ask you, give us a little bit of a background as to what led you into looking into all of these areas.
So I think that I truly believe that we've all chosen the blueprint that we want to be walking into this life with. And it is a very personal journey of mine, but if I look back at my life, it's now that I'm kind of seeing the mosaic pieces coming together and just the absolute benevolent divine orchestration of all these parts that were in my life, whether they may have been contractions or expansions, but every single one of them being a very medicinal piece to my journey. So I definitely think that this contract that was made, you know, we all come into this life or many other lives, but you know, it could be one divine purpose or a divine purpose that will take us 7 lives to fulfill. But I remember when I was very young, and I mentioned this to you already before, but I think that was very instrumental in my journey when I had such a big fear of the essence or the frequency of fear. And I managed to, I was very privileged to actually understand that it was the frequency of fear that I was feeling and not my own fear, because of the way that my parents dealt with this extremely profound kind of trauma that I was moving through. And having understand that as a fear that came from my fear of people feeling unwhole, because that's in essence why people are feeling disconnected from themselves or lost. As you said, you know, the external world is a complete reflection of the chaos from within. And when we are constantly looking outside with no kind of structure, organization, sense of connectedness to your essence flame, which I call your inner sun or say soul or whatever you relate to, when everything around that is chaotic, you don't have an access point to that. And wholeness, you know, we come into this life whole, but then because of likes and dislikes, we tend to kind of say, okay, this part of myself I don't like, this part of myself I don't like, this part of myself I don't like. We fragment ourselves and then left with a slither of who we are, and then ask ourselves why we're not whole. And so you actually lose sight, you blind yourself from, and this is what I call the Radiance code, because we are our own oracles, right? We can't find the answers to what our soul's journey is from the external. I mean, yes, okay, we can go into more depth and say everyone's a messenger to your soul's purpose, but in essence, if you're not asking the right questions or noticing what is for me and what is not for me, it's very, very difficult to kind of navigate yourself. And so I think from having kind of lost, let's say, having moved through this journey from a young age, and then all these pulsations of life that lead you to a complete space of, you know, from fear, I moved into just losing myself, because now it was like, I need to cope in this 3D society. I need to cope in the world as a incarnate manifest being. And then having gone the complete opposite way of, now I was blinded, but I chose that. But I needed to be blinded to then find myself again. So I think I went through a massive phase of depression and anorexia. And I always say that as dark as it was, but I always chose the light, because I knew that the benevolent universe was there, and I always had a relationship with the light. I knew that I just couldn't see it. And so I kept saying to myself in depression, which was before my anorexia, please just help me reconnect to joy. Please help me remember that my essence, my truth is bliss. That is who we are. We're whole and we're bliss. And I knew that. And I just said, please help me remember. And ironically, my anorexia, I mean, I can honestly say that it was a divine intervention, because I asked for my body to forget the trauma. And of course, trauma is stored in the tissues. Right? That's our human technology. It's like a suit that we can experience Earth with, the same as you need an astronaut suit for the moon. So integrative nutrition came in as a part of learning how to redesign and reorganize and harvest the highest potential capacity of light in my cells from eating high vibration meat. So for me, integrative nutrition was a part of really understanding the architecture of biology and the architecture of light, because we are light and form. And so learning, of course, you can call this control, but having a little bit more, again, visual understanding of what is happening in my body. And then I stopped bleeding as well. So that was the reason why I went into hormonal health, because I didn't believe, I've never believed in medicating myself to numb myself. And I was raised like this by my own mother as well, which I'm extremely grateful for. And then, yeah, moving back into movement, reclaiming movement from dance, having stopped dancing, having a gap of about 5-6 years, and then reclaiming movement, but in a way that the mirror was on the inside. I wasn't moving from, as a ballerina, the mirror on the outside. So you start to see more and more within, and you start to recognize more and more of actually what you need and what your soul calls for. So I think in...
So would you say that the anorexia and all of that was like at the lowest point of your dark night of the soul?
I'd say the depression was, not the anorexia, because ironically, the anorexia actually made me feel very powerful. I think it was my access back into the etheric realms, which I remembered as a child. I felt very light. I felt like I could see again, and that was the reclamation of joy. I honestly, it sounds crazy to say, but I felt really joyful during anorexia. It was, the depression had already gone. It left.
Okay. You know, there's that saying that says the sun is always brightest just before the sun goes down, just before sunset.
And yes, I do believe that I received a second chance at life. I do.
So when we are in the depths of our worst chaos, it's important to know that it's going to be okay. That chaos, that bright chaos is setting. You know? Okay, so that's the background. Tell us about the Radiance codes. I'm very interested to know what you use the word download. And when I asked you about it, I said, okay, so we have the Radiance codes, and really what will that do? And you said it detangles the chaos of the mind. And I love that, what you said. So just say, tell us, how did they manifest? That's what I want to know.
How the Radiance codes download.
Yeah, how did they come into existence?
It's also really interesting to see, you know, when we're in conversation, we're always picking up specific things. And now when I kind of move back to the conversation we had, I don't even remember saying that. And I believe that there's various access points to transformation or healing. And all of us facilitators have different kind of genius zones. And ironically, I don't believe mine is the mind. I feel like mine is the embodiment. And connection to the etheric realm. And so, anyways, going back to my my journey in Bali last year, where I went to Bali to actually meet a teacher that I'd been practicing yoga with for about 10 years. She was so instrumental in my entire journey. And I said right from the beginning, I so deeply connect with her because I feel that she understands how to bring spiritual laws into the crystalline grid of earth. So through the body, she learns how to bring these codes down, and she learns transformation through the art of moving the body in different ways, because the body is the temple, and the body is kind of like, I call the body the Bible, our unique Bibles. And the more that you move in different ways, or move into different spaces or places, or, you know, we can learn from so many things, but when we start to excavate our truth, only we know what truth feels like. And anyway, so I went to Bali to learn from her. And it was our 300-hour yoga teacher training called Intrinsic Genius, which is just that, is reconnecting to that essence nature and rediscovering who am I, you know, which comes with a whole next metamorphic journey in essence. And that is the alchemical journey. That is the journey of, you know, you have to be ready to strip down, to unlearn what you learned before, you have to be a truth seeker. And from that journey, I think, again, came a lot of chaos, but I do call chaos or confusion fertile soil. Just as the lotus moves through the mud, the seed is from the mud, and it goes towards the light. It knows where the light is, even if it doesn't. It intuitively knows where the light is without necessarily seeing it. And I think through all the questioning and the rabbit holes we went down, and all these experiences and the transmissions that I received from her and many other teachers I had in Bali, coming back home, I went into panic zone because I was like, wow, like I've transformed, but now the frequency that I used to be is not resonating in the Zimbabwean land as it used to. So I had to almost re-meet myself in a place that I thought was familiar. And it's so interesting to see how this land, I always say, this land is the only land that I have walked on this earth that grounds me. So being back in Zimbabwe, I think there was quite a lot of overwhelm in terms of how to actually digest or distill all the wisdom and the knowledge and the experiences and everything that I've moved through there. I kind of kept saying, please help me distill, please help me distill. And it was just at that point of thinking, well, you know, how to make this shareable. And just letting go a little bit, that I just received this download to say, this is what you need to do. And I'm always so deeply grateful when these downloads come through. You know.
Was that over a period of time? Was it like one big event, or did it happen over a course of time?
No, it was actually just me driving in my car, and it was just within about a minute. Everything was so clear.
So you got the package.
I got the package. Yeah, I'd say the pillars, and as I mentioned to you, the 7 pillars in the Radiance Code, which are, as we mentioned, the alchemical tools that support you to reconnect back to your light.
Okay. I just want to read out here what the 7 pillars are. We've got remembrance, embodiment, breath, invocation, communication, frequency attunement, and love. Why 7? Did you just choose the 7, or did it come to you as 7? Why 7?
It came as 7. I didn't have a choice.
Okay.
Much of a choice.
No, the reason that I mention that, because other people might not know as well, is that not everything, there are a lot of things in our history and also in our spiritual teachings that come in 7s. Do you know that there's 7 hermetic principles?
Mm.
There's 7 principles of hermetism. That is Hermes Trismegistus. There's 7 Stoic principles as well. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah. They come, so Stoicism goes all the way back to Zeno, which was like 300 years BC. And I think it was Marcus Aurelius who really made it a thing to be called Stoicism. But so it's very, very ancient. Plus, I mean, if you look at all the references, even in the Bible, 7 is a big thing. God rested on the 7th day. There are 7 heavens. So 7 is a very spiritual number. We've got 7 days of the week. We've got 7 continents. You know, it's a very important number. And it's also a number, I think, in astrology, it's a number where you have the 4 plus the 3 equals the 7, the 4 being the physicality, the 3 being the spirituality coming together, and then you've got that sort of integrated number 7. Completion.
It's interesting that you're saying that, because I think fear of being unwhole, or a fear of really being who you are as a human being or as a soul expressed in a human experience, which is in essence what is radiance, is when you come into the fullness of who you are with the remembrance. When we incarnate into this earth realm, we forget where we came from, right? But there is a gnosis, or there is a higher knowing somehow that there is the soul, right? And even when the soul leaves, the body is there. So we know that it's this technology just helps us house the soul. And for a long time, because this sense of soul knowing was there from a very, very young age. And I almost felt that there was more to the unseen world that I could see than in the physical, because it was just so captivating. And I always say, like, I'm completely just enraptured and seduced by the mystery. So fear of the unknown has never really been something for me, because there is a very, very benevolent intelligence that always surprises if you allow her to. And
so 7, what does 7 mean to you?
So this part of, say, the spiritual laws, or say the etheric realms, or the celestial knowledge of self, coming into the earthen realm and actually learning how to find a language or an embodied way of sharing that and this woven as one, right? We are light, and we are human, and we are soul, and we are form. And this has been a question for me my entire life, how to bring these two together. And also a massive part of my journey in Bali, where my teacher Megan Curry really truly helped me embody that.
So you do the Radiance Code, so as a package, so somebody would sign up and come and see you. Explain a bit how it will all work.
So the Radiance Code, I'd say, is for someone who feels like there is more to life, but they can't quite grasp it. And however we experiencing contraction or imbalance, or not feeling connected to self, or feeling a deep sense of fear or anxiety, or even physical ailments, these are all emotions or energy that has not been metabolized, right? So it lands in your physical body, because your body is the messenger. There's all these codes and algorithms, which is why I call the Radiance Code, because the codes are all around you, but you need the human technology to access the portal into the more Akashic dimension. And Akasha in Sanskrit, we call this the ether, right? So the 5th element. And so it's really for someone who feels that there is more to life, and they just can't find joy, or they can't find happiness. And so often we tend to have a very specific view on what it is that we need, which by no means is, I think, that's also a part of the divine trajectory, is that sometimes we need to kind of look at the small things before we realize, actually, I need a higher lens. And so no matter what the situation, it's really to kind of broaden your perspective and rise in your timeline, which means rising in the witness consciousness, to actually understand in the wholeness of your being what is actually happening in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And often we find that when energetically, because there is a lot of energetic work that we do through the various modalities of healing or frequency attunement, but as soon as we start to clear ourselves and we start to learn how to metabolize all these energies, not through the mind, but letting the body digest what the mind cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it is a physicality, like it is a physical element that is remembered in the body. So you don't need to remember everything on an intellectual level. You can feel it and sense it and let the body do the work and move through the space and just connect to the mystery and let that build a relationship with self and build a relationship with something bigger, whatever that may be for you. So when you raise in essence in frequency, when you're doing this work, you're raising in frequency, and so you'll recognize that a lot of your life tends to become clearer because you connected to self, and therefore the universe is going to mirror that which you need to see. And this is how you reclaim your radiance, because there's a clarity, there's a truth, there's a lucidity to what your soul needs to know.
Does this take place over 7 weeks? Okay, as well.
Yes.
So you meet up once a week for 7 weeks.
Exactly. So on a logistical basis, every pillar is 1 week.
Okay.
So we'll meet for 2.5 to 3 hours in a ceremonial setting, where the first part is much more contemplative, much more self-study, some mantra as well. We use Healy as well, which I call my Aquarium fairy wand. It's a quantum frequency scanner and a bioresonance device, so we use that as well.
So that's like a Healy resonance machine. That's a technology.
Exactly. So it's specific microcurrent therapy, which helps you attune or helps you reorganize or recalibrate yourself. So physical, frequency, mental, emotional, and spiritual, all into alignment, so that you become clear with self.
So the Healy is used not just to measure where you are in the frequency level, but also to send the frequency to help you.
Exactly. Okay. So, we have so many different modalities of healing in this life, and all of them are frequency attunement. So for someone who doesn't quite understand the word frequency, frequency is the language that moves energy. So energy, if you see as the kind of the light matter, but it's stagnant. If there's no frequency, if there's no language that moves it, energy will be stagnant. So for example, say if you look at the chakras, the sacral chakra, the root chakra will be red, or it's expressed as red. For most people, not for everyone, because we're all different in our chakral frequencies, but on a kind of more generic level, it will be red, and that's because the frequency is much lower, and therefore the physical figure will be much lower. And as we raise, the frequency will rise, the color will change. So it is the frequency is the language that moves energy, and we are as physical beings. Again, we kind of go into the micro here, but you look at a whole being. You break the being down, and we come down into organs and skin and cells and organs. Go slower. Then you break that down, and you go into molecules, and then you go into particles, and then you go into microparticles, and then you go into protons, neutrons, electrons, and what in essence is that? Is 99.9999999% space. So
you can't fathom all of that.
So we are manifest because there is a magnetism between these particles, which creates a density, which is why we feel dense, because it's all, this universe works in magnetism and repulsion. Things that you can't see is because you're in repulsion to that. Things that you magnetize to, you see because you're in resonance. So we always say that if we're 99.99999% space on a micro level, it is the quality of that space that we experience life by. So if our space is a low frequency, we will live a low frequency. When we raise the quality of that space, and I think that's why I'm so attracted to just Akasha, because we are that, right? We are this malleable being of infinite possibility, and we have the capacity to shift that frequency on a very, very micromolecular level, cellular level. We can cultivate light.
Yeah. And so a lot of people know about these philosophies, technologies, and things that are available. We just don't know how to get there. And this is where your work comes in, where you can facilitate and help people to get into those spaces. Okay, that's why it's so important. So I think I do encourage people. How do we get hold of you, Carmen? Do you have a website?
I have a website, as I mentioned to Tania. I think everything, our digital kind of fingerprint evolves as we evolve. So there is a lot of upgrading to be done in the website, but you can still connect to the website. I'm also very, very active on Instagram.
Okay,
I think that's where the highest upgrade of my human experiences at the moment and my offerings. And
you also have a very, very very strong gift for language and poetry and the way you put the words, and you sort of, so it's like magical. This magical ability to just make everything just seem so beautiful, and it's a very fine and light vibration. I think that's probably your gift. Outside of radiance and things like that, but if you can bring that very, very light, fine vibration to somebody, I think it inspires them and aspires, to maybe move towards being like that. We all talk about needing presence, being in the present moment, and whatever. I do find that Carmen is the living embodiment of presence. So really, I really thank you for your work, Carmen, and all your hard work that you've been doing and passionate work that you've been doing. And really, I encourage people, please go and check that out, because we are looking for transformation. Even if you don't intellectually know it or understand that, you are on many levels. So find your way to peace, find your way to joy. And I know that Carmen can help you do that.
Yeah, if I can just say one last thing is,
please do.
Speaking about beauty and this life, if we don't know the meaning of life as a gift, we give it up to someone else. And there's something so beautiful. You said to me, what a ceremony. And I think to actually receive this life as a gift, to receive this life in ceremony and ritual, and we can make every single moment so beautiful, and that's kind of self-adornment, and we deserve having a beautiful life in whatever way we create that for us. We are the creators, and therefore we have the capacity in every single micro moment to choose where to beautify things, or even just dropping into a space of gratitude for what we have versus lack mentality. So I think to really, when we see or choose to see existence and this human experience through the lens of love and self-compassion, naturally that will emanate out to the world, because that is a high vibration. And through seeing through those lenses, we're not just doing the work for ourselves, but it is the greatest gift to humanity, is to be the embodiment of a high vibration which uplifts. It's an intra-relational relationship with all that is. We are not separate.
We're not. Okay, so I'm sucking all your energy now. So I can also be light, refined, beautiful vibration. Anyway, thank you, my angel, for doing this. It's just lovely. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. And really just try and soak in the wisdom of what Carmen has had to say to us today, because it really is, it's very deep, and on a soul level, you'll get it, don't you worry. So to everybody out there, thank you very much. Carmen, thank you, my angel. Thank you, everybody. Until the next time. Bye.